Good morning. You are watching The Paratroop. I am Mrs. Troop, a one-on-one special education paraprofessional specializing in learning support this year. All right, so here we are with some paraprofessional interview questions. So I'm going to read a few questions that I got from, what is this? procaretherapy.com. Top paraprofessional interview questions and answers. I'm going to not read their answers. I'm going to give my own answers. And I am going to pick and choose the best questions. I don't think all the questions on here are like the best to ask. So, why do you like working as a paraprofessional? I love actually working as a paraprofessional. I don't just like it. I get to see the students' growth. I get to assist the teacher, support the student, and I really love being able to clock out and not take work home. I think that shocked my interviewers when I said that, but they absolutely knew that I was a true educator. How do you see your role in the classroom? So my role in the classroom would be whatever that position entails. I can't decide that. The school, the teacher has to tell me what they expect from me, and I do my best to absolutely execute those responsibilities and duties. I don't think there's any other way to put it. It's kind of clear cut. That's What would you do if you had an issue with one of the teachers? This is a tricky one. All right, so it depends on a few factors. It depends on, do you intend to stay at this school, but your professionalism stays the same across the board no matter what. You're going to work harder if you want to stay. So you'll work on the relationship between yourself and the teacher harder if you want to stay. If you're leaving, you keep it very civil. If you want a recommendation letter from that teacher, you absolutely do your absolute best to make sure that you are holding up your end of the bargain. I've been in this situation and I still got my letter because my work speaks for itself. If you get this position, what is the first thing you'll do to prepare? I will make sure that I have all information on the disabilities, not particularly the actual children, but just the disabilities that I'm working with and behaviors in the room. And also, if I can, speak with the teacher about their expectations. If they can give me SDIs of the student's IEP, that would definitely be appreciated because it can definitely help me do my job better. What is your biggest strength? Oh, I would say my heart, my experience. I can't pin it down to one. My professionalism, I'm always on time. I'm very energetic. I'm very positive. I'm motivational. All of the above. Pick one. Do you have any formal training? Okay, so I can't tell you what to say for this answer because this pertains to you individually. My formal training entails master's classes in special education, also trainings with particular jobs as a paraprofessional in special education, and that's about it in experience. But yeah, that's my formal training. Trick question here. How do you ensure you're communicating effectively with families? You're not supposed to. Well, in my case, paraprofessionals are not supposed to communicate with the families. The teacher and the administration communicate with the families. You are a support staff in the classroom, and that is all. You do not go to parent teacher conferences. You don't have conversations with parents at drop off and pick up or those things. You just don't do it. You leave all that up to the teacher. But I believe that I guess that may differ from school to school, from district to district, from state to state. But in my area, that is frowned upon. So you don't. That's the answer. Another trick question. How do you, Yeah, how do you handle a student repeatedly acting out? This is a trick question because a lot of people will say what their personal tactics are, their strategies to de-escalate a situation. It's not about your personal opinion. It's not about how experienced you are as a parent or as an educator. You go by that IEP. Whatever that PBSPs, whatever those are in the IEP, that is what you go by, and you follow it to the letter. You make sure you document everything, because if you don't follow it, it is on you. Okay. Um, you do exactly what their documentation says, because what you think personally may be completely wrong. For instance, I'm going to give an example. A lot of times people think that if they smile, if they talk loudly to a kid, hey Johnny, that could be a trigger. I just gave you an example. That could be a trigger for a kid. You could do that and that kid could smack you because you shocked them and you triggered them and they got defensive. So sometimes the PBSP may say, don't give attention, don't give eye contact. So you have to go specifically by what that particular child's documentation says. There have been times where, you know, you have to ignore certain things. And a lot of people think, oh, that's mean. That is what the documentation says. Sometimes a behavior will escalate if you give it attention. So the people who have came up with this conclusion have observed this child long enough to know that that is the best route to take. That's what you do. Okay, this is going to be the last question. How would you communicate with a nonverbal student? I'm lying. This is not the last question. This is the second to last question. How would you communicate with a nonverbal student? So all of that information is already given to you. You don't make up how you communicate with the student. The school tells you what communication device, whether it's a digital device, whether it's sentence strips, whether it's icons, whether it's sign language, or a mix of all of those. Those are what you do. You follow the documentation. This is not up to your creativity. Okay. You don't, start making hand gestures out of the blue that make sense to you. Okay. You go by what the IEP says you're supposed to do. For sure, for sure. Last question. What if you see your student and their parent at a store on the weekend? How do you interact with that family? Remember, I said you don't interact with the families. Well, you're not going to run, because then that's a little weird, right? So I'll give you an example. I saw one of my students at Walmart, and he said, "Hi, Mrs. Troop," and I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he said, "This is my dad." And of course, he was basically saying, "Talk to my dad," And I said, "How are you?" And he said, "Fine." And I said, "I work with your son. I love working with your son." And that was it. I don't say anything about how he's doing, any progress that he's made, anything he needs to work on. All I say is, speaking for myself, I love working with your son. I think that is the best first and lasting impression. Also, you don't cross any lines, and you say, "See you in class," and you keep it moving. So that is all. Thank you for watching my video. I hope this helps.